Hi everyone, welcome to another video. This is another fur tutorial. This time I'm focusing on how to draw white fur. Now white fur is one of the hardest fur colours to draw in my opinion, and definitely the one that I struggle with the most. And I think because half the time you don't want to add too much grey necessarily, you don't want to make it look dirty, you want the white to still look white and very bright, and some areas will look very grey and dull, but then some areas will look very bright. So it's hard to get that balance and make it not look muddy and dirty. So in this little sample in the corner that you can see, one side here, the left hand side, is quite dark. So I started off with like a mid-tone bluey grey, like a blue tinted grey, and I laid that out all over the dark side, and then I blended it out with a blending stump. And then on the other side I've used kind of not a brightest white, but a light, like an almost white pastel pencil, and I've gone over this bit and like shaped out the rough shape of the fur and the rough clumps of fur, just to map out the direction and make it easier to continue with the drawing. And then go in with a darker grey, and I'm shaping out the fur clumps a little bit more and adding in some contrast, because you can see there is quite a lot of grey and darker colours within this white fur, which gives it the definition. If you were just to use white, it would just look blank and like have no definition. It won't look 3D, it would just look very flat. The thing is with white fur is it can quite often have different colours in it, such as it could be a slightly creamy white, it could be a bright white, it could have some blue tints, it could have some purple tints, it could have some brown tints, it could just be quite grey. There's lots of different colours that it could potentially have. You just have to look and focus on and see what colours you can pick out, and there is a way to do this using an application on your computer like Paint or something like that, and I could do a video on this if you'd find that helpful, which will show you how to pick out colours. I mean, once you get used to it, you kind of just do it by eye, but if you're starting out and you want a bit of help, then using another technique to pick out colours can be really helpful. As I'm continuing with the drawing, I'm adding more darker bits to like really deepen up those darker areas, which gives it depth, because you can see that the bright white fur on the right hand side is like over the top of the darker grey kind of fur, which like gives it a shadow. It kind of just makes it look more realistic. So I'm just going in with loads of dark pastel pencil here. I'm using some brown and some grey, because there is a slight brownish tint in this picture and a slight beigeish tint as well. So I'm going to go in with a slight creamy beigey coloured pastel pencil. For some reason on the camera this looks a lot more brown than it actually is. Like when I was drawing it, it didn't look as brown as this, and in real life it doesn't look as brown as this. So I don't know why. It must have been something to do with the lighting at the time when I was filming this, but it is a lot more grey in real life. So here I'm just adding some cream on top just to bring out the slightly like creamier tones, and then right at the end, or like towards the end, I sharpen up my white pastel pencil as sharp as it can get, and I layer this over the top to get the really bright white bits at the end. And with your initial base layers that you blend out, you kind of do want to make sure you don't add too much pastel onto the paper, because you want to be able to add this white on at the end, which will make it look really bright. And if you add on too much as a base layer, it will fill up the tooth of the paper and you won't be able to add the white in as much, and it won't look as bright, it will look quite dull. So you have to kind of be careful with your base layers. But when you use a blending stump, it does help, because you can kind of push it more into the tooth, so you get more to use more pastel on it basically. If you don't use the blending stump, it can look quite grainy as well. So I highly recommend getting a pack of blending stumps. I will leave the link in the description below from where you can get them from. I just get them from eBay. They're really cheap, or you can get them on Amazon, anything like that, anywhere really. They're really cheap and I definitely recommend them. They're just like a paper stump that you can use to blend out pastels. You could also do the base layer using pan pastels, which I quite often do, which is a really quick way of getting down a nice base layer. As I add more and more layers, I do blend out each layer, but then the top layer I tend not to blend out. I think after I've done this white bit here, I do blend it out a little bit because I thought it looked a little bit too grainy, which you can do. Here you go. Yeah, I'm going in with a blending stump now just to kind of blend it over. And at the end I do add in a few kind of stray hairs, because fur doesn't necessarily all go in exactly the same direction. There are some fur some strands of fur that kind of just stick out everywhere. It depends what kind of fur you're drawing. If you're drawing really, really short fur, then it's most likely going to go in a similar kind of direction. But if you're drawing longer fur like this, then it will be, if you're drawing longer fur like this, then it quite often is going to go in a few different directions. And at the end here also, I'm also using a Caran d'Ache Pablo pencil, which is actually a colouring pencil, not a pastel pencil, but I quite like this for adding in final white highlights in my drawings, because you can get more of a precise line with them, more of a thinner line. And then this is the final piece here. I hope this tutorial has helped slightly with how to do the white fur. I mean, I can do a more in-depth tutorial doing white fur or black fur or whatever, but in like more real time, if that would be helpful to you. But this gives you kind of a rough idea, just showing you how I do it and how I layer the pastels up. If you found the video helpful, please give the video a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more from me, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Bye guys.